Hi, my name's Dr. Krista Burris, and I wanted to talk to you today about the common problem that we all have when we're parenting a toddler, and that's how do I manage a tantrum? Tantrums are pretty familiar to all of us, and they usually involve behaviors such as crying, screaming, maybe throwing things, and basically being disruptive. Now, I wanted to differentiate a little bit for a second between a tantrum and a meltdown, because these are caused by different things and they're managed very differently. And the approach as a parent should be different whether or not you're dealing with a tantrum or a meltdown. A tantrum is something that a child exhibits a behavior when they want something and they don't get it. Say, for instance, they want to go play on the swing set, but it's time to go to the car. And so you tell them, no, we can't go play on the swings, we have to go home now. They may get angry, stomp their feet, cry, maybe sit down, refuse to walk. This is a behavior that's exhibiting because they are trying to get something that they want, such as going to the swing set. There are several different ways to approach this behavior. The first, and one of the reasons you know it's a tantrum, is if you were to give into it, the behavior immediately stops. So you say, okay, let's go to the swing set. They stop, they get up, they're happy, and they run and they play. So this sort of reinforces the fact that the behavior was just about trying to get something they want. Now, it's also important to understand that these types of behaviors are learned behaviors, and they're trying things out to see if they work. They are trying to say, hey, if I do this, can I get this thing I want? So the way to sort of manage this kind of a behavior involves setting some firm limits and saying, no, we cannot do this thing. And then it's reasonable to give them an explanation that's age appropriate. For instance, if you have a 2 or 3-year-old, you may say, we actually have to go home because there's something we need to do. Or we don't have any more time today at the park. But the second part of this, and the part that I really want to focus on, is the concept of giving them an alternative behavior that they can do to obtain the thing they want. So, for instance, we cannot go to the swing set right now. We have to go home. We have to do something else. But if you can be patient, we should be able to come back to the park in 2 days. This might take some time. It might take repetition of this kind of, discussion with your child before they start to really understand that this other behavior will result in what they want. Sometimes it's a little easier for them to see in something that's a little closer in time. So for instance, you're sitting down to dinner and they want to eat their dessert first. And what you could say is, oh, I would love to have that dessert too. That dessert looks wonderful. Why don't we eat our dinner first and then we'll enjoy our dessert together? And by giving them that expectation of, yes, I can still get what I want, it's just in order to get it, I have to eat my dinner. I'm not a huge fan of using food for rewards, but in this case, the reward they wanted, if it was part of your plan already, it's reasonable to use it that way. So now let's talk a little bit about a meltdown. A meltdown can look very similar to a tantrum. A child can be crying, screaming, hitting things, not listening, running around, but it results from a very different place. A meltdown happens when a child is at the end of their emotional control. And so in this case, it may not have an obvious thing attached to it. For instance, they may just sit down and start crying without really wanting anything in particular, or without really even knowing why. Or the thing they want may be unrelated to the situation that you're in. So they sit down and they start crying for their stuffed animal that's at home. This is a sign that the parent needs to intervene to create a place for this child to get their emotions back under control. This is never something that should be punished because the child can actually not control it. So, for instance, this is very common in children who are hungry and tired. Perhaps they had a missed nap, or it's time for their nap and they're overdue. They may be hungry, they might have recently been ill. There are all sorts of things that play into this, and they're not that different from the same things that we as adults experience, things that cause us to be irritable. In a small child may cause them to lose complete control. So the other things is to know that each child is unique. So there are some kids that are going to hit that loss of control very quickly, especially in some circumstances. Other children may drain their battery very quickly if they're in a large crowded area with lots of children. Some children thrive on that, some children, it wears them out. And so knowing that your child is one that maybe only has about 20 minutes of group playtime is something that you learn over time, and you learn new with each child. So there's a bit of grace that we need to give our kids and ourselves as we're learning about them and we're learning how to best manage their time. This is an opportunity if your child is having meltdowns to change some of your parenting approaches, to sit down and really think about your time management with that child, their schedule, their nap schedule, also what is possible within your schedule to give them some time outs. If your child is in a position where they've completely lost it, do not feel guilty, do not feel bad. Your job at that point is just to take care of your child. Don't worry about what all the people around you might say or think. I guarantee you most of the people out there are feeling for you because we've all been there. So you want to take your child into a place where, if possible, it's quiet and they can be alone, and allow them to cry until they're ready to control themselves. Often children will at that point fall asleep. If possible, some children prefer to be held during this time. Other kids don't want to be held. So you just kind of have to figure out your child. If you know, hey, my kid's hungry, that's part of the problem, as soon as possible, get them some food. If you know they're just done, they need to go home, sometimes that means you're going home, or if possible, back to your car, just they need a break. That's the beauty of raising children, and they teach us so much about ourselves, and they allow us to start learning about how we process emotion. After a child has a meltdown or a tantrum, it's actually not a bad idea to talk about it with them and to say, hey, how were you feeling? I know that it looked like you were feeling really angry or really sad. Is that how you were feeling? Help them sort of start to put names to the emotions that they're having, and then help them to understand what went down. So if it was a meltdown, you might want to say, we should probably make some different decisions and not let you miss your nap. It turns out your nap was really important to help you not feel so angry. So helping them understand that sets them up for a lifetime where they start to take care of themselves in order to regulate emotions.